What's up, everybody? Today I'm going to be helping my little brother out with a little video that he shot. I'm going to put it together and just add some special effects to it. Now this is going to be another video with commentary laid over it. So if you guys like this type of video, just let me know down below and I'll make more of them. So let's get into it. So what I'm going to be doing is editing and adding some effects to that video. Here are some of the effects that I added. So I'm opening up Premiere. I'm just gonna edit the video down. So I'm gonna start. I got this folder open. Here are all the little clips and I'm just gonna get to work. Now I'm starting to notice some issues with the footage itself, some continuity issues. And there's also a problem with the lighting, like the way it just changes like that. It just changes so suddenly. I think that's mostly due to the fact that this was shot on a phone camera and the sensors aren't so wide. So yeah, I would assume that was probably it. Now this was shot on a cloudy day. You're not getting the best lighting in general. So I'm gonna try to find a way to work with this. And the color correction is gonna take a hit because of all of the light changes we have. Now this video is gonna be fairly short because there are some issues with some of the shots. So I had to cut them out altogether. And right now I'm just working to tighten everything up and make sure everything kind of flows together. So after I finish with the edit, I'm going to try to isolate the clips that I need so that I could send them over to After Effects. Now I'm going to render each of these little isolated clips because sending them directly to After Effects from Premiere, it just always gives me issues these days. So I'm just going to add everything to the queue, to the render queue. Now this is a separate program. It allows me to render out multiple sequences at once without having to wait for one to finish just to get started on another clip. You can just put them all there and then just wait for it all to render. Now I'm opening up After Effects and this is where I'm going to spend most of my time. So I'm going to import the clips and the first one we're going to start with is this teleporting piece right here. And I'm going to try to piece these shots together to where you barely can notice the cut, and then that's when I'm going to add in the shockwave. So I'm going to go import a shockwave, and this shockwave is just there to kind of, show that he disappears. So that's what I'm going to be adding. Now, right now I'm just positioning the shockwave and getting the timing right and everything. So once all of that is straight, then I'm going to deal with blending it into the shot, which means that I'm going to have to do some masking. Now, of course, the masking that I'm going to be doing here is not going to be nothing crazy because the shockwave animation is very short. So I'm just going to keyframe the areas that I need to keyframe so that it can look as if the shockwave itself is sitting on the grass rather than on the clip itself. So it's just going to help me blend it into the shot. Now, I know that these masks are pretty sharp. I'm going to feather them out later. I'm just going to make sure that everything is where it needs to be. And I'm just going to animate this keyframe just for a couple more frames so that the shockwave can look like it really sits in the shot. But this type of masking isn't going to take too much time because it's just a couple frames. So right now I'm going to try working on blending these together. So I'm going to try rotating the footage. Now I'm going to try my best to make these clips go into each other as if, they're one video. There's also some additional masking that needs to be done. So that's what I'm doing here. And I'm going to try to make him sort of light up just really quickly before he teleports so that it can look like it was something that was going to happen before it actually happens. So of course this is a subtle effect, but it helps really sell the disappearance. Anyway, I'm pretty much done with the shockwave, so I'm just going to render it out. I always render into a QuickTime format because it gives me the best quality. Now that we're done with this little disappearance, I know there's so much more that can really be done to this. So the next shot we got is this little exploding here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a shockwave to this little missile launcher, so it can look as if it launched something. And then we're going to follow the little foam piece with the shockwave. So it can look as if this foam thing that's been blasted out of the gun is what's causing the shockwave, if that makes any sense. So right now I'm just going to be doing some masking. So I'm going to quickly move past this because it's pretty much the same process as before. Now I know a lot of people hate masking, like that's just probably the worst thing about visual effects in most people's eyes. But if you find creative ways to work around it, then it's not really going to be that big of an issue. So right now I'm adding the explosion. I'm just trying to see, how it's going to look and everything. So in order for me to make this explosion work and look like it's there, because of course you got the moving camera, I'm going to track this. Now I'm not going to do no crazy full scene tracking thing because it's just overkill. I'm just going to track that little foam piece that came out of the Nerf gun, and then I'm going to have the explosion work off of that. And then that way I'm going to assign the fire element to the null object. So the null object is basically position, and then I assign the fire element so that it can use the position that I attach to the null object. I hope you guys understand it. So now that that's straight, I'm going to try to splice between the two clips because his reaction isn't too natural. So I'm going to try to have it to where it kind of jumps, so the explosion can look like it had some real impact. Now I'm adding some motion blur. Now I'm going to work on making this little explosion look like it's there, because right now it looks like the fire is hovering over the little foam piece. So I'm going to add an extra fire element and blend it with the one we have here. Now I just added a mask over the fire and feathered it so it can look like it really sits with the rest of the fire. Now the last thing I'm going to do is duplicate the main fire element and then assign, set it to screen so that it can look like it's a little hotter. And then I'm going to render this out. Now I know that some of the techniques that I'm using here are just being done over and over and over. And that's mostly because it's the same type of effect. He just wants something, laid on top and then blended into the shot. Now, of course, there are some advanced techniques that you can use to help something really look like it's really there. Like add in some extra lights and add in some fake elements like smoke and dust and all these other things. But I didn't really have the time to really go through and do that, especially since I've only given my brother an hour of my time. Now, of course, I spent a lot more than an hour, but I didn't know at the time. So I was kind of rushing things. And then when I got to the end, I realized like, dang, I spent so much time on this. Anyway, let's get right back to it. Now, the next thing I'm going to work on is the second disappearance. It's basically the same as the first clip that I did. Now with this one, I'm going to bring the arms in before they're actually there, so it can look like the shots belong together. So what I'm going to do is do some masking and then remove the background and have it to where once the background actually shows up, the guy here, or the little boy here, he disappears. Now, of course, the mask doesn't have to be the best because it's pretty quick, but it needs to be good enough so that you can tell that those are hands, and those are the hands that are in the shot already. So I'm going to add a shockwave there, and the shockwave is going to serve the same purpose as the last one did. Now the camera moves up pretty quickly, so what I'm going to do is animate this shockwave so that it moves down as the camera moves up. And this is the best way to do it and make it look like it's sitting there without having to do no crazy tracking. Now I added some directional blur to make it look as if it's reacting with the camera. So a lot of it is really just trying to blend it into the shot you have here. So whatever the conditions you have of the shot itself, you're going to try to match the effects with the conditions there. So if the camera is moving a lot, you're going to have to adjust the effect to the moving camera. So right now I'm going to work on the gunshots, and I'm just going to add some muzzle flashes to it. So this one is fairly easy and quick. So I'm going to quickly run through this. Now, of course, I add the effect. I double up the stock footage. So I have 2 different muzzle flashes, and then I just added them to the gun. And of course, since the muzzle flash only appears for about 1 second, so I'll be able to run through this pretty quickly. Now, of course, I can work on impact hits and add some blood and stuff like that, but I don't think I should because this video looks a little bit playful, so I'm not going to ruin that with blood splats and all this craziness. I spent a lot more time on this than I was supposed to, so I'm kind of rushing to wrap this thing up. So I'm going to add a couple muzzle flashes here. So I'm just going to copy the effects over from the last composition and just bring them over. and just adjust a couple things so that they can look like they fit this particular shot. Now I'm down to the last clip that I need to add an effect on, and that's just a shotgun blast. So what I'm going to do is get a muzzle flash from a side view, but this muzzle flash is going to be fairly big. I'm going to rotate it, spin it around so it can look like it fits, you know, the little shot. Now I'm really rushing this one, and I'm going to do some masking so that it can look as if, you know, the characters react to the shots as they are supposed to. And I'm really out of time with this. So I'm just going to quickly double up the muzzle effect and blur one out. And then that's pretty much it. Now that's pretty much it for the video. I got to wrap this up. I finished the video and I added the sound and everything to it, of course, after the recording. But that's just, you know, the final touches. Anyway, if you guys want to watch the little video and support them, then you can check out the video here, and I'll be back with some more. Bye.